The verdict of obedience of the Sharia court against the disobedient Muslim wife. This is a love story written in English and translated into Arabic by Dr. A. Ahmed. Copyright. All rights reserved. All characters in this book are fictitious, and any resemblance to real people living or dead is purely coincidental. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author except by a reviewer, who may quote brief paragraphs in a review to be printed in a newspaper, journal, or a school or university magazine. This is a love story about three Muslim girls who were subjected to gross injustice, severe violence, and abhorrent persecution by Muslim men, religious leaders, Sharia judges, and police officers in the Islamic community and the religion of Islam, and it is hostile, hateful, and abusive teachings against women's rights, which are innumerable. For example, beating of women, child marriage, circumcision of Muslim girls, which is known universally as female genital mutilation, slaying them in honor killings, inequality between males and females in inheritance, testimony in court, marriage, divorce, man's guardianship over women, controlling their lives as if they are minors, physically handicapped or mentally retarded, and forcing them to wear their abayas, veils, hijabs, niqabs, or the humiliating black burqas as if they are frightening ghosts. Muslim men are allowed to, by the Quran, to have sex or rather rape without the need for marriage. Captive women of war, such as wives, daughters, sisters, and even mothers of the defeated enemies, who are called unclean infidels. Islam forbids a Muslim woman to become a president of a country or a boss at work or a judge in court, and she is strictly forbidden to lead men or a woman in prayer as an imama. Moreover, the Prophet Muhammad said the woman is an unclean creature just like a dog and a donkey, and therefore as a defiled being, she annuls the man's prayer if she passes in front of him while he's praying. Many Muslim countries refrain women from going to school and work, and they are not permitted to drive cars, bicycles, or motorbikes. They are forbidden to practice any kind of sports, and they are not allowed to go to gymnastics, beaches or swimming pools, cinemas or theaters, and none of them is allowed to leave her house without her husband or with a muhram man. The woman is forbidden to marry, such as her father or a brother. They are also not allowed to fall in love with men before marriage or choose their life partners. This story is about three innocent girls, namely Intisar, Firdaus, and Muna. Chapter 46, Beast Man and Beauty Queen. When the angry girl who became her new adopted sister, Muna, left, the newly adopted daughter Intisar stood for a while, looking at the beautiful bathroom. Then she slowly and timidly began to remove her solid clothes, piece by piece. The stench of her filthy dress, her sweaty bra, and her dirty red little underwear made her understand why the impudent girl, Mona, had concluded that she had not showered for a month. When she stripped her body of all her clothes, she started walking towards the mirror. Then she started looking at herself. She turned it around and looked at her reflection in the large mirror. Intisar has never seen such a full-size mirror in her life. Every part of her naked body was satisfied. When the runaway girl saw her sexy image on the other side of the large mirror, she thought of her handsome lover Sami. What will he do when he sees her standing in front of him, completely naked with her beautiful and sexy figure on their first wedding night. Intisar was a little ashamed to think that way. She blushed and covered her face with her hands as if she were a new virgin bride on her honeymoon with her handsome groom in a hotel room on their first wedding night. Suddenly, she remembered her shower and immediately threw off the brainwave. She walked over to the bathtub and looked at it. It is beautifully designed in pink and white marbles. She has never seen a bathtub except in some Bollywood movies when the beautiful Indian heroines took a bath in it. So the naughty girl decided to imitate one of those gorgeous Indian Bollywood film stars whom she saw while she was taking a shower in a hit movie. With this idea in mind, the beautiful fictional Sudanese heroine turned on the taps. The great basin began to fill. Meanwhile, Intisar began examining all the tiny perfume wicks and makeup bottles on the shelves. She opened each bottle and examined its fragrance. Every product in a container that she loved so much that she bore some all over her sexy naked body. Suddenly she saw the bathtub overflowing with water. Intisar rushed to it and turned off the two taps. Then she picked up the soap powder and dumped half of it into the warm water. She shook the water with her hands until the tub looked like it was covered in white cotton. Slowly and carefully, the beautiful Sudanese heroine immersed her naked body in the tub. She is afraid of drowning inside the big bathtub. She cannot swim and knows she can drown in her basin. When her fear subsided, she began to feel great. She became as happy as a teenage girl realizing her gorgeous beauty and sexy body for the first time. Then she started imitating what she saw the beautiful Indian heroine do in the movies. She first stretched, raised and lowered her sexy legs. She did the same with her hands. She even touched and fondled her big breasts. She also stroked their nipples and other sensitive parts of her naked body. This made her sexually aroused and promoted her to use her middle fingers and masturbate gently in her hairy pussy. After feeling completely sexually satisfied, she started throwing soap bubbles in air. In this way, the runaway girl spent a long time in the bathtub until the rude girl Muna knocked on the door and called her out. Muna brought with her three beautiful dresses and underwear for the Sudanese heroine, and Cesar chose the best of them. After the selection was done, the sassy girl started working on the face, nails, and hair of the new pretty girl. The great difference in the beauty of the two girls made Muna hate Intisar bitterly. The makeup session took longer than the shower time. When the makeup was finished, the new girl stood in front of the mirror and looked at her beautiful pictures. The lovely girl Intisar understood why the sassy girl Muna wasn't happy to be in for her to be in the charity house. This thought again started doubts in her mind. It became clear to her that beauty is an essential quality that is imperative for obtaining a high advantage in a new job. Then the fugitive girl understood why her new mother, Nafisa, had told her when they were in the taxi that she had more qualification than her other adopted daughters. Therefore, Intisar decided to demand full knowledge of the job description before accepting her mother's new offer. After everything was done, the beautiful Sudanese heroine saw herself in the mirror as the virgin bride, getting ready for her wedding with her handsome groom. Once again, the happy girl wished that her brazen lover would suddenly appear before her, take her in his arms, look into her beautiful eyes, and then kiss her sweet lips. However, her brilliant idea of the handsome boyfriend Sami is interrupted when the mother Nafisa enters. I can't believe my eyes, Mother Nafisa screams happily. It is the same runaway girl I saw today standing in front of the zoo, barefoot and with a dirty dress on her sweaty body as if she were a mad girl or a homeless beggar. Yes, it is the same homeless girl, says the runaway girl. I don't know how to thank you for your kindness, Nafisa. Don't say that again, my love. Now go to the dining room and eat your meal. After that, Muna will take you to your room. You need plenty of delicious food and a long rest on a comfortable big bed. Yes, ma'am. Then the happy mother kissed her newly adopted daughter on the cheeks and forehead. She said that she didn't want to kiss her on her sweet lips because she wouldn't like messing up her makeup and removing her lipstick. Then she went back to her room. Meanwhile, the innocent girl followed the sassy girl into the dining room. When the mother Nafisa entered her room, she closed the doors safely behind her. Then she picked up her phone and dialed a number. May I speak with the wealthy business tycoon Waddal Bella Ibn Jar Nabi? Yes, I am Waddal Bella, the son of the neighbor of the Prophet Muhammad. I speak. Hello, Bulbul. Yes, this is your mother-in-law, Hajja Nafisa. Yes, Mona told me you called twice. I have a surprise for you. Yes, a beautiful and fresh virgin. More than you can imagine. Yes, the most beautiful deer I have ever caught. You will go crazy when you see her. Not tonight. I haven't tamed her yet. She is very tired. Give her a day or two. Please be patient and wait a bit. If you insist on your responsibility to convince her, come late after 12. So come at 11 o'clock at night. I want her to get a good rest and then she'll be fresh and ready for you. Muna groomed her as a new bride on her honeymoon. Okay, goodbye, dear sir, with Dalbella, the neighbor of the Prophet. In the meantime, when Intisar reached the dining room, she was starving. Mona went to the kitchen and came up with a large tray full of food in her hands. Then she put it in front of the hungry girl. The rude girl was shocked when she saw the new girl start eating. Before she can chew or swallow the first batch, her hands will catch another. Moreover, her 10 fingers held the food like the Chinese sticks and put it in her mouth. She didn't know how to use a fork, spoon, or a knife, and therefore she used her own hands. She forced her mouth open more than it could. Her cheeks are swollen like two pink balloons. Mona had to go to the kitchen 3 times before the hungry girl felt full and completely satisfied. Then Intisar says, "It is very tasty food. Do you still need more?" The rude girl asked. "No, thank you, Mona. I'm full now." "You are like a girl who hadn't eaten in a week. Also, the way you ate was like a jungle girl who came straight from the forest." Intisar can no longer tolerate Muna's rude behavior. "Is it necessary to tell me all these insults? I only told you the truth about you. Please next time keep your truth to yourself." The sassy girl wanted to say something, but she controlled her anger. She's afraid that the new girl will inform the mother Nafisa knowing what will happen to her if that human bulldozers gets angry with her. If this happened to her, the two girls will fulfill the Sudanese proverb that says, "The hen of the wilderness has kicked out the hen of the house." When the new girl finished her delicious meal, the sassy girl directed her to her bedroom. Sleep is the last necessity that Intisar craves. Therefore, once she got to bed, she fell into a deep sleep and started snoring. Muna turned off the lights and went and told Mother Nafisa that the beautiful bride was ready on her bed. It was 4 o'clock in the evening when the Virgin of Heaven slept. At 11 at night, a wealthy visitor rang the bell. Mother Nafisa opened the door for him. The rich man says in the voice of an ogre, "Oh, my mother-in-law, Nafisa." Then his hand tried to hug the mother, but he could not do so because of her fat belly. He is a short, very fat man with no hair on his large, bald head. He is ugly and looks like a scary beast. When he enters, he walks like a dog. His hands are short and sway as he walks. They look like penguin wings. He has a big stomach which made him look like a 6 months pregnant woman. Mother Nafisa tried to hug him, but her hands could not reach beyond his fat belly and touch his back. He also has a big ass just like a very fat man. This because the rich visitor is a sick fleshed and his legs are shaking from obesity. "Welcome, Bulbul," the mother, Nafisa, says in a whisper. Where is the virgin girl? Please speak softly. Your new virgin bride sleeps in her room, surrounded by her guardian angels. Can I have a look at her? Firstly, let us have a drink. If she's something precious, I should look at her first, and then I can sit and drink with you. Well, let me check her out before you go there. Then Mother Nafisa went to the room where Intisar was sleeping peacefully. When she entered, the lights came on. She saw her new adopted daughter in a deep sleep. She is lying on her stomach. Mother Nafisa reached for her and slowly rolled up her dress until it reached her waist. She fully revealed Intisar's legs, her hips, her big buttocks, and her little red underwear, which Mona gave it to her with the new dress. Then the bad woman came back and invited her wealthy client to come and have a look at the sleeping beauty, the maiden of paradise. When the obese, evil man came and caught a glimpse of Intisar's beautiful face and her revealed sexy body completely naked, his insatiable sexual lust reached an uncontrollable limit. He was aroused and stuck his fat dick like a stick inside his large white jalabia. So he opened his mouth and eyes and stood like the infamous, notorious womanizer Caliph Harun al-Rashid in front of a naked teenage girl in his large palace. Mother Nafisa took him out and closed the door behind her. When they reached her room, she wicked, the wicked bimb lady brought two large bottles of beer from Abu Jamal brand and blessed them between them. "Now tell me, Bulbul, what do you think of her? She is the queen of beauty of the whole universe. Listen, Mother Nafisa, this beautiful teenage girl is mine alone. I will pay you well, but I don't want any other man to touch her. I don't like sharing this queen with another man. I want to be her king and she will be my queen. Don't worry, my son-in-law, Bulbul, she's only for you. Now tell me how you found her. I always go every Friday to the zoo. The kids come out there looking for for guys at the zoo, especially those girls who run away from their families when they want to kill them in honor killings. Most of them come from other cities and became prostitutes in this big city. This is how and where I found her. She told me that she ran away from home because her parents wanted to force her to marry someone she didn't love. But I don't think that is the reason. You know, girls only run away from their homes when their lives are in danger. I think her father or a brother found out that she had been conceived with an illegitimate child by someone before marriage and wanted to kill her. This means she is a girl fleeing an honor killing. This has become a widespread phenomenon throughout Sudan. Very few men have enough money to marry girls. They just love to fuck them and get them pregnant and then wash their hands of them. Then the illegally pregnant girls are forced to run away from their homes and families and to avoid scandals and honor killings. I don't care where she came from and why she ran away from her parents, but the need is precious. I repeat again that whatever money you ask, I will give you. This beautiful and sexy girl is mine alone. I have 4 wives, so I can't marry her. I will make her my concubine and keep her in your brothel. But she must be treated like my lawful bride. No man should touch her or see her but me alone. I have already reserved her for you alone. From today onwards, she is your lawful wife, and you have become my real son-in-law. And I am your mother-in-law, Hajj Nafisa, the daughter of Jar al-Nabi, the daughter of Jabbar al-Maksura, who was the holiest Muslim saint in Sudan, and his shrine healed sick people until this day. If I saw her on the street before you found her, Hajj Nafisa, I would have kidnapped her and brought her here and fuck her pussy with my big dick. So she is mine and mine alone. Don't you trust me, oh Waddal Bella, the neighbor of the Prophet? I trust you, Mother Nafisa. You are my mother-in-law. I'm your son-in-law. Now you can board the pier of Abu Jamal and let us celebrate my secret wedding with the beauty queen. Don't drink a lot, my son-in-law. The virgin bride may try to resist. Don't worry, my mother-in-law, about it. I will rape her if she resists. Even if she screams for help, don't worry about her screaming. All brothels and bars around us do the same prostitution business. My house is not the only brothel and tavern in this area. After the big woman and the fat bulbul, the obese man make their evil deal against the third innocent girl in Tisar, they start drinking beer. The rich man emptied 3 large bottles of beer Abu Jamal into his fat belly and rose to his feet. Then he started walking like a wolf towards his unarmed and unaware prey. His eyes were red with alcohol, and his fat, massive body was burning with uncontrollable lust. He entered the room like a thief in the night and closed the door behind him. Then he slowly walked over to the bed where Intisar was sleeping. He is like a hungry wolf that snuck into a cave of an innocent deer. The innocent girl is still asleep and does not realize the danger that befell her. Intisar is still sleeping in the same position with her body fully exposed. The sight of her bare legs, hips, large buttocks, and little red underwear made the wolf strip off his human clothes and stand naked before her. If she suddenly wakes up and sees a male chimpanzee standing in front of her, she may mistake him for a notorious beast that has crept into her room. Fear of him may cause her sudden death. The wolf's sexual desire has evolved from lust into frenzy. He was completely overcome by his demonic lust. Then he quickly reached out his right hand and turned her body, and his left hand pushed her dress up to her narrow waist. He could now see her exposed body. He could now see her exposed big ass, shoulders, and neck. Then he started kissing her back, hips, and cheeks. He became like a hungry cannibal who found exposed raw meat of a human female and began to devour it. While doing this, his nose smells the scent of her body just as the male animal sniffs the pussy of its female. Then he sat beside her body and braced against it with his huge body. body. The heavy weight of his obese body caused Intisar to wake up from her deep slumber in terror. Her first reaction is that she is in the grip of a terrifying nightmare. She thought either the house had collapsed on her or a truck had rammed her down. When the wolf started biting her lips and cheeks, her mind sent her the right message. She realized that this is an evil man trying to rape her. She opened her mouth and let out a loud cry. He tried to force to free her legs and hands, but the heavy weight of the fat man made her helpless. The new adopted daughter continued screaming and calling for help. She called her mother Nafisa and her new sister Muna over and over again. Intisar does not know that the impudent girl Muna was picked up by an adulterous old man in his car long ago, who took her to his home to feast on her tender body and fuck her all night long. The screams of the beautiful new bride infuriated her rapist, so the fat groom put some of his fingers in her mouth and pressed them against the pillow. Immediately the bride Intisar closed her teeth tightly onto his fingers. The man felt her teeth like nails that penetrated his fat fingers and reached his bones. The pain forced him to stop and roll his body off Intisar's body and fell to the ground like an overturned bulldozer or an unloading garbage truck. The extremely frightened girl quickly let go of his fingers and jumped to the ground. She immediately stood up and rushed toward the door, opening it. At the door, she found the mother Nafisa stretching out her arm to prevent her from escaping. The frightened girl pushed the evil procurer woman away and ran toward the outer door. Mother Nafisa fell on her back and her mouth made a big noise. By then the fat groom got up from the ground and followed his lovely bride. When he came out of the room, he stumbled upon the fallen mother and he too fell flat on her body. The evil beam lady Nafisa was smashed and choked to death by the huge heavy weight human beast. She made another loud noise and died instantly of a sudden heart attack. It was then that Intisar reached the outer door. She quickly opened it and ran away. When she turned and looked back, she saw the big man coming after her. His enormous weight could hardly move his stout body forward 1 foot. By then, the beast man's queen of beauty, which she became his virgin bride, is a stone throw away from him as she heads toward the spooky wilderness, and cemetery of Aula Sherfi. Chapter 47. The runaway wife spends her second night in a cemetery. Intisar continued escaping from the brothel of Mazan Afisa as she headed toward the wilderness. The rich fat man also kept following her. When she stopped and looked behind her, she saw two other men and two other girls running in her direction. So she increased her speed. These four new chasers are faster than the fat beast man. They were the two old men who had been sleeping with the prostitutes, Salwa and Shahinaz, in their rooms from noon all night. Intisar understood that the bad woman Nafisa is a beam who tried to sell her body to that huge beast man who assaulted her on her bed while she was asleep. Therefore, she kept fleeing for her honor and virginity. She could feel the thorns and stones cutting through her bare feet like sharp nails. She left the new shoes that the Mbudan girl Muna had given her in the brothel. She knew and understood that the consequences would be dire if she stopped and tried to remove the thorns from her bare feet. Yet she is too afraid to step into the wilderness at such late hour of the night. Intisar remembered that Manzanafisa had told her that there were zombies and terrifying creatures that would come out of their graves at night and attack anyone who dared to trespass on their land of the dead. However, the ghosts of the wilderness and the zombies of the tombs preferred to her than to surrender her body to that huge human monster who assaulted her and tried to rape her in her sleep. With these two inevitable alternatives ahead of her, Intisar continued to move forward. Then she looked behind her again and saw that her pursuers were still running after her. The two prostitutes are much younger than their elderly clients. Therefore, Salwa and Shahinas are closer to Intisar than the two old men who used to spend the night feeding on their delicate bodies and fucking them for big prices. The fleeing new girl continued to run until she reached the tombs of the Awla Sherfi. Then Intisar opened the gate and entered. She saw a large memorial stone on one of the graves. She rushed and hid behind it. From her hiding place, she saw one of the two girls reach the gate as well. The bitch came in and then stopped and started looking for the new runaway prostitute. After a few minutes, the hiding girl saw the other whore and the other two old men join the Ferris slot. When Intisar saw them entering the tombs and advancing in her direction, she picked up some smooth stones and waited for them to approach her. She now knows that she has no strength left in her that could help her run any further. The only weapon she has is to scare them away with her stones. She knows that what will happen to her if they catch her and take her back to the brothel of that evil woman who has deceived and seduced her with the promise of a job and the safety of a charity home. She expected the evil woman to beat her up and have the three old men gang rape her simultaneously as a punishment for her eloping. Fortunately, her four pursuers could not spot her in her lair. They all went the other way. The frightened girl Intisar had remained hidden behind the large memorial stone. Her heart beat fast and loudly like an African drum. She had never felt such fear, terror, and panic in her life. She knew that if they turn around and walk in her direction, they will definitely see her. Luckily, she saw them back at the entrance. They stood for a while and talked to each other. Intisar overheard them and understood from their words that they had inferred that she had escaped from the tombs by jumping over the fence on the other side. Therefore, they decided to forget about her and go back to the brothel and continue their sex orgies and barbarism. At last, with this devilish thought in their depraved minds, the two old men and the two young prostitutes went to the gate and walked away. Intisar could not believe that she had escaped from these three dangerous rapists, the two prostitutes and the evil beam, Mother Nafisa. She remained silently sitting in her hiding place until the danger of being caught had completely vanished from her heart and mind. And when she was sure that her pursuers had left her and returned, she came out of her hiding place. Once her fear left her, the homeless girl found herself facing yet another terror. It is a greater terror, far greater than what she has just experienced. It filled her heart and mind with more panic and dread than all the fears she had faced in her entire life. Her terror and fear now result from being alone in the cemetery at night. She knows she cannot go to the cemetery alone during the day. Even with others, she was too afraid to go to the cemetery during the day. Whenever she went with her mother Sarah and her brother Osman and her two sisters, Farida and Firdos, to visit the grave of her late father Ibrahim, she trembled for fear that one of the dead would come out of his grave. Her memory is filled with many fables and horror stories. Her frame of mind is full of spooky stories about the dead who came back to life as ghosts and zombies and hunted down anyone who dared come to the cemetery at night. She now had two alternatives that she considered: to return to the city or to stay in the graveyard for the night alone. She concluded that the living would be more dangerous to her than the dead people. Wherefore, the fugitive wife decided to spend her second night in Khartoum city at the cemetery. Fortunately, there is a bright crescent moon which emits enough light to her for her to see her way. Then the terrified girl looked around for a safe place to sit. She saw the tomb on which she stand safer because it is the highest. It is the same grave that just hid her from her pursuers and temporarily saved her life from those evil motherfuckers. So the frightened girl carefully folded her legs and sat on top of it. She has no shoes on her feet. She's afraid of being bitten by a snake or a scorpion in such a terrible, desolate place. While she was sitting in the shelter of the new grave, which her fate had led her to spend the remaining few hours of her second night in the streets of the capital city, Intisar's frightened eyes suddenly noticed the name of the deceased one. This was written in large letters in memory of the late innocent martyr of love Firdos Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir. At first, the said innocent runaway and homeless girl Intisar could not believe her eyes that she was sitting on the grave of her late young sister. Once she was sure that it was the tomb of Firdos, she turned into a statue. An indescribable terror filled her heart. She was paralyzed for a few minutes, and all her limbs were numb. Her whole body became lifeless. Intisar felt like she died and then rose again. When she had somehow overcome her horrible existential coma, She fell to her knees and prostrated herself over the tomb of Firdaus. She thought her innocent sister's blood had brought all these troubles upon her. Accordingly, she began to cry aloud and ask for forgiveness and mercy from her murdered sister. She is now crying, carrying dirt and pebbles and throwing them on her head. While doing so, she slapped her face and violently pulled her long hair. If she had a knife at that crucial time in her life, she might not hesitate for a second to stab her heart and kill herself horrifically. Nevertheless, she continued to cry and ask forgiveness from her deceased sister. Please forgive me, Firdaus. I know I'm the one who caused your untimely and brutal death. I know I'm full of selfishness. I killed my brother Osman too. Please, Firdaus, open your grave, then bury me with you. I'm a human being full of shame. I don't deserve to live. Intisar continued to cry and seek forgiveness from her deceased sister. She cried and cried until she could no longer cry. At last, when her tears had dried up and her strength gone, she fell on her face and fell asleep on her late sister's grave. Therefore, the runaway and homeless girl Intisar is spent her second night in the capital city of Sudan in the cemetery with the bones of the dead, including the remains of her late innocent sister Firdaus. According to the custom of that Muslim country, the new grave must be broken 3 days after the day in which a deceased relative was buried in it. It is the duty of men to bury the newly deceased, but women have to break the grave after 3 days. Now, breaking the grave does not mean destroying it, but tidying up the mound of earth that the men made over the grave when they buried the dead person. The woman should come on the morning of the third day to break the tomb and make it look good. This break was usually done by women who were close relatives and good neighbors of the deceased person. Those who are familiar with the story of the resurrection of the Lord Jesus Christ from the dead may have an idea of the customs of the countries of the Middle East and North Africa regarding their dead relatives. The Bible says in the New Testament, and after the Sabbath had passed, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome brought the spices so that they might come and anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, they came to the sepulchre when the sun was rising. Quoted from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 16, verse 1 to 2. Although Jesus Christ is the only human to have risen from the dead, many people in Sudan still believe that there are some cursed African tribes who have the power to rise from their graves on the second or the third day after their death and burial. Such a person is called Ba'ati if the dead is a man and someone from his grave has risen, and Ba'atiya if a woman has died and raised herself from the grave. It is a kind of a scary zombie. The only difference is that the former not only scares people with his frightening and terrifying appearance, but he also harms and kills everyone he meets. So the zombie may scare you to death with his or her terrifying appearance, but the boogeyman and boogie woman, along with their terrible looks, who will also kill you. People would be scared to death by this kind of dead and resurrected damning person. Whenever they encounter such a pastor, they would chase him down and stone him to death. In this way, many innocent people were falsely accused of being zombies. Sometimes a living person may be mistaken for a zombie and killed. Therefore, it is very dangerous to roam near the tombs at night. Any group of people who come to bury their dead at night will mistake you for a damned person who has just risen from his grave and then hunt you down and kill you mercilessly. Therefore, when they can catch you, they will kill you brutally. They will not try to find out if you are a living person like them or a zombie who came out of his grave. If they find you alone near the tombs, they will definitely assume that you are the dangerous zombie who has risen from his grave and is looking for someone to kill and eat his flesh. Before you do such evil to them, they will destroy you and make sure that you will never come back to life again. They will stone you to death and make a huge pile of big stones on your corpse. They think those big boulders will keep you from coming out of the land of the dead again and hunting down the living. Chapter 48. A young zombie girl is being chased by an angry mob. On that very morning, when the runaway wife who had become homeless took refuge at her late sister's grave, some 5 women came at 5:30 a.m. to break the grave of their recently deceased relative. 3 of them are all women and 2 are pretty teenage girls. And it happened too that an old woman was on her way telling others a frightful story about a young woman who had recently risen from her grave and was seen by some people as she walked at night near the tombs. Those who claimed to have seen her said she chased them away until they reached their home. While fleeing, they left the body of their deceased relative lying on the ground without burying it until the morning. When the narrator finished her frightening story, great fears filled her heart and the hearts of her listeners. So, with these hearts full of fears and horror, the 5 women arrived at the cemetery on that very morning when the homeless girl in Tsar took refuge in the grave of her late sister Firdos. She was still asleep when the woman came. She stretched out her body and sleeps on top of the tomb. She looks like a young boogie woman or a ragtag of a female zombie that has just emerged from her grave and has taken a bit of a rest before she starts roaming around and looking for people to attack, kill, and eat their flesh. The 5 women march in a single file like female soldiers in a military parade. At the beginning of the line, the three old women walk, followed by the 2 teenage girls. Each woman carries some kind of grave-breaking tool. The 3 old women walk past the sleeping Intisar without being seen by any one of them. They are busy talking to each other. In fact, all 3 women are talking simultaneously and listening to each other at the same time. The 2 teenage girls whisper some secrets to each other. One of the girls is telling the other about her handsome new boyfriend, how she had a good time and real fun with him last Friday night at his house, kissing and cuddling and fondling her big breasts, but not having sex by inserting his big cock into her tiny circumcised virgin pussy. She claimed she was still a virgin and had a small stitched up pussy and was completely sealed by female genital mutilation. The other girl is waiting for the first girl to finish telling her romantic and sexual adventures so that she can tell her lies about her handsome boyfriend as well. When they reached 3 meters from the sleeping homeless girl, they saw her at the same time. They began to tremble and utter stuttering sounds and unintelligible words. One of the 2 young girls collapsed instantly. The other one somehow managed to overcome the shock and let out her voice Her scream was so powerful it even caused the graves to shake and probably messed up the dead in their tombs. The dead might have mistaken her scream with the last cry of the archangel Israfil, and they would have all risen from their graves, believing that it was the last day for the resurrection of the dead. However, that miracle did not happen, and what happened is also a miraculous phenomenon. She woke up the sleeping girl in Tisar and revived the other girl's unconscious body, and the other three old women instead collapsed and felt like lifeless bodies. When she opened her mouth again and shouted the hateful word, the female zombie or the al-Ba'atiyah, another miracle happened as well. The residents of that area hear her screaming as if she was screaming in their ears. So they all got up from their sleep and ran for her rescue. Her sad shout caused the other three old women to rise again up to their feet. Then the escape began. The fairest young woman alive to start running toward the gate is the girl who starts screaming herself. She happens to be the talkative girl who has been recounting her secret romance and private sex life with her handsome new boyfriend. Her name is Shada. Her lover is called Shadi. Her cousin who is with her is known as Hasina, and her secret lover is Hassan. These two cousins are 15 and 14 years old, respectively. Both girls are engaged to their cousins and are supposed to marry them after a year through though each fiancé having another boyfriend beside her fiancé. It is common practice in Sudan that every teenage girl has a lover, but her parents must choose another life partner for her. She will allow her lover to enjoy her body in every way except sexual penetration. She must keep her virgin pussy intact for her future legal Muslim husband, who won't be her lover. If she made any mistake in those securely enclosed private parts of her body, she would either be slaughtered in a maiden horror killing by her father or a murder in bed on her fairest wedding night by her groom, who discover she isn't a virgin bride. So only a demented virgin girl could make such a fatal mistake. Therefore, only through violent rape can her lover or any male relative insert his phallus inside her virgin pussy, which is fully secure and zip and zap through FGM before the time of her arranged marriage. In this cutthroat race, however, the teenage fiancée Shaza was followed by her 14-year-old cousin Hasina. They're running like they are in the women's 100-meter race at the Olympics. The two girls shouted 100 times the hateful name of the cursed zombie girl before they both reached the gate at the same time. Now the third young lady in Tisar was awakened from her slumber by deafening shout as well as rose to her feet. She became very confused and scared and then started running for her life as well. She also wants to escape from the damning female zombie Al-Ba'atiyah. She runs after the two girls to the gate. She's running as fast as she can as if her feet are not touching the ground. However, she could not reach the two terrified cousins. Shaza and Hasina, who are flying like the wind, if they were in the real women's race, no other girl could beat them. Both of them will get gold medals at the Olympics. By then, the three old women are up on their feet and want to escape too. They saw the frightened girl in Tisar running after their two daughters. and concluded that she had risen from her grave. However, none of them screamed because they thought the zombie girl might abandon their daughters and come and attack them instead. Of the three old women, two are the mothers of the two teenage girls, and the third is their auntie. One of the women suggested that they should all jump over the high fence. Her proposal is approved by the other two ladies. So the three old women ran toward the high wall. Under normal circumstances, a person's exit from the tombs through the fence would be second to impossible. Even a ghost may not succeed in jumping over it. Such a fearful person will be hindered by many obstacles, such as wires, stones, broken glass, sharp stones, snakes, scorpions, metals, and many other natural hazards. But the three old women would rather take all those risks than face the accursed zombie girl. When they came to the high wall, they threw away their tools and began to cross the unbreakable fence. Another miracle happened when the three old women crossed the impassable fence in less than 3 minutes. But of course, a lot of damages were done to their bodies and clothes. They made it to outer space almost every woman half naked and barefoot. Numerous cuts and scrapes occurred to their naked bodies. Their wounded bodies bled profusely. However, they considered all these troubles as a great joy when they reached outside the tombs. Immediately they joined their two daughters, running and shouting 100 times the hateful name zombie girl. No man in that strict Islamic society is allowed to go out into the street half naked like these three old women. However, these three old ladies chose to run away naked rather than stay and be attacked by the so-called zombie girl. If they succeed in escaping, they would then not mind receiving 100 lashes on their naked bodies or their bare buttocks without veils and gowns were, were exposed in public place. When the terrified girl Intisar reached the gate, she realized that she was the cause of the two girls' fears. So she stopped running after them. Before she could do anything to correct their misunderstanding, she saw hundreds of people running toward the tombs. They all armed with sticks, whips, swords, spears, axes, knives, stones, bricks, wood, chains, and other unidentified local white weapons. They are all men, all women, young women, teenage boys, teenage girls, children, and dogs. They all hold they all hold extremely deadly bladed weapons in their hands. They're shouting with one voice the nasty, abominable word zombie girl or al-Ba'atiyah. Intisar concluded that her end had come. At first, she thought of falling and waiting for them to come to her and stone her to death. Despite this, her survival instinct forced her to flee for her life. So she turned in the opposite direction and started running toward the wilderness. People spotted her and thus started chasing her. They thought she's a zombie girl. She's running at full speed. She flies at the speed of light. She's like a frightened cat being chased by hundreds of ferocious dogs. Despite her incredible speed, some of her male pursuers are faster than her. They appear to her like demons or zombies who had risen from their graves. They also hunt her like visible black ghosts or a crowd in scary Halloween masks. Throughout her life, Intisar did not fear such critical moments. It became a matter of life and death for her. She knows she is a dead girl if she stops. She just kept running without a set goal or a known end. She can see nothing in front of her but an empty, endless wilderness. She flees at the speed of light as she hears a crowd of people shouting the obnoxious name Zombie Girl or Al Ba'atiya. Meanwhile, the supposed zombie girl crossed the water streams and went down the valleys and went up to the hills. People are still chasing her. She fell more than once, but never stopped. Every time she fell, she quickly got up and continued her dangerous escape. After a while, Intisar became tired and exhausted. She is now running out of gas. She could hear the voices of people approaching her. She's about to give up, but again her survival instinct urged her to keep running until drop dead. In this in the distance, she saw a high wall and some buildings. Unfortunately, these buildings are on top of a mountain. This makes things difficult for her because she has to climb the mountain to reach those buildings and find a hideout or some rescuers. Despite her exhaustion and many cuts on her bare feet, she began to climb the mountain. During her difficult ascent, she was hit with a spear like stick called safarok and three small stones. This caused her to use up her remaining reserves strength and reach the top of the mountain. When she got to the top of the high hill, she saw a big sign that said in big letters, a no-go area. Do not approach this place or take photos. Intisar understood that she had reached a military zone. Her eyes traveled along the fencing until they stopped at the gate. She saw two soldiers in front of the gate standing with their automatic rifles. A large number of people chasing after her also reached the top. The zombie girl saw them and ran towards the gate. The two soldiers pointed their rifles at her and shouted in unison, "Stop there or I will shoot." The words of warning from the two soldiers caused Intisar to stop immediately. She saw both soldiers bending their backs and looking insistently at her. Intisar learned that the soldier would not hesitate to shoot her if she disobeyed their orders. She looked back and saw that many angry people had come too close to her. Her right leg was hit by a stone. Safarok stick hit her on the back. She understood that she had fallen into a trap. She faces a difficult dilemma. She must choose death either by stones of the angry mob or by the deadly bullets of the soldiers. A large stone hit her on the shoulder and shook her body. It caused a lot of pain. Intisar took one of her legs and brought it forward. Then she lifted her other leg and placed it in front too. She felt many stones, bricks, and sticks falling near her. Some hit her and some did not. The one that is scooped past around her body like stray bullets. Stone and bricks fly towards her like flies, and mosquitoes fall near her like heavy raindrops. She started advancing towards the two soldiers. She understood that she would be killed either by stoning or by body riddled with bullets. Finally, Intisar preferred death by the bullets of the two armed soldiers to the stones of the crowd of madmen and crazy women. One of the soldiers equipped his gun and took a step forward. The other soldier saw that his colleague was about to shoot. He knew that The frightened girl will turn into a pool of blood in a few seconds. He concludes that the beautiful teenage girl is another victim of horror killing. Then he saw Antisar heading toward the stem. A, a fellow soldier pulled the trigger and fired. Intisar's body would have been riddled with hundreds of bullets if the other soldier had not deflected the Kalashnikov's firing. He dropped his machine gun AK-47 and jumped on his Kalashnikov and saved the life of the frightened girl. At that decisive moment, Intisar passed the two soldiers like a missile launched from the ground to the ground and entered the military camp. She is probably the only human in the entire universe who has defied the orders of these two fully armed soldiers who follow the military maxim of shoot first, ask questions later. Chapter 49. The fugitive wife takes refuge in a military house. As soon as she entered the military base, the homeless and fleeing girl Intisar lost consciousness and fell to the ground as if she had been shot in the head from close range. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself in the military hospital. She saw two nurses in military uniform standing by her bed. She smiled at these two nurses, but they did not smile at her. She recalled the entire incident of being chased by the angry mob who considered her to be a damning zombie girl arose from her grave after her death. She knows she broke military rules by the way she entered, wherefore Intisar expected that she would be imprisoned for such a crime. The two nurses immediately transferred the intruder girl who had entered the military base illegally to their top military commander. The two nurses saluted the major and then left. When the homeless girl entered barefoot, the major looked at her seriously, his face scanning her from the top of her head to the bottom of her feet. "What is your name?" Major asks aloud. Intisar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, the fugitive girl answers in a soft voice. "How old are you?" "I'm 17 years old. What is your problem?" Intisar hesitated to tell the major about her real problem for fear of exposing her identity and sending her to the police. She kept silent. "Did you know you weren't supposed to enter this military base?" "Yes, sir, I knew that, but I had to do it." "Did you know you were supposed to be shot dead in the doorway?" "Yes, I knew that, sir, too. If you don't tell me the truth about yourself, I will hand you over to the police." "Please, sir, don't do that because I'm a brave girl." "Why did those angry citizens chase you?" "I don't know, sir." "Did you steal something or fall into disgrace? I mean to say, did you commit adultery with a man and become pregnant with an unlawful child before marriage?" "I did none of these evil deeds, sir." "Then tell me what your problem is." "I can't tell you about my problem." "In that case, I must call the cops and hand you over to them." The mention of the police caused Intisar's body to shiver and her heart to quiver. So she opened her mouth and told the major her sad story complete from A to Z. As she told the story of her tragic life, her tears fell like heavy raindrops in mid-autumn. Her many tears convinced the major that she had told the truth. "Listen, young lady, whatever you said about yourself, I believed it. But you broke the law by running away from your Muslim husband, the police, and your house. Firstly, if I have to remain silent, I will break the law myself. Secondly, you enter here in this military base illegally. You have committed this second grave crime. Therefore, I have no choice but to send you to the police. Please, sir, don't send me to the police. I didn't make a mistake. Please have mercy on me, and I promise I will never go near this military base again. Why did you break the law and run into our base? I was chased by many people who wanted to stone me to death. They mistook me for a zombie girl or a boogie woman or a ghost. If I had not entered the military base, the angry crowd would have killed me. So please, kind sir, try to understand my problem and let me go. I did not do any crime in my life except that I fell in love with a rich boy and I want to be his future life partner. When Intisar spoke these words, she fell at the major's feet and kissed him. The military commander bent down and raised her. Suppose, Miss Intisar, that I agreed to let you go without handing you over to the police, and then tell me how you will solve your problem. You said you had no money, no shelter, no relatives in this big city. You also said that you spent 2 days wandering aimlessly around this cosmopolitan city. Khartoum is the most dangerous city in Sudan for a beautiful teenage girl like you. Where were you? Where are you going from here? I don't know, dear sir, but it would be better for me to wander the streets than go to jail. I wonder if my wife will agree to keep you with her. Anyway, let us try that and send you home. Are you interested in doing housework as a maid? Of course, I will pay you for your service. Yes, I am willing to do anything for your wife. I have one important condition. If you want to stay in my house as a maid servant, you must not tell anyone your problem, neither my wife nor my sons. I will not tell anyone, sir. Then the major took his phone and called one of the military truck drivers. And when he came, he ordered him to take the new maid to his house. Major El Sanosni's house is located on the bank of the Nile River. It is very far from the military base. The car that took the homeless girl is a large military truck. The employed maid servant has been traveling for a long time before she got to her new dwelling. Intisar enjoys seeing the beautiful landscape of large green trees on both sides of the riverbank. Close to it, through the window glass, she can see fishermen repairing their nets and boats in the murky waters of the river. Some of the boats have already reached the other riverbank, while others are still sailing towards the shore. Intisar wished in her heart that one day she would be able to travel on a boat. She had never traveled on a ship on the Red Sea or a Nile River before. By then, her mind had forgotten the attempted rape in the brothel of the Bim lady, Nafisa, and the frightful night she had spent in the cemetery. Fears of being raped by the big fat man or killed by the stoning by the angry mob had vanished from her heart too. Intisar sitting near the soldier driving the military truck. He is a tall, very handsome young man. He is whistling a famous Sudanese song while driving the big military truck. The beautiful young woman looked at him from the corner of her left eye, and she remembered her handsome boyfriend Sami. She knows that her good-looking lover will be released after a month in prison. The, the, the lawyer Salah told her that her lover Sami had been sentenced to 1 month in prison. She also expected that Salah would come to looked for her at the Stars Hotel near the international airport, where she had spent 4 days. So Intisar decided to call the hotel front desk and give them her new address at the residence of the honorable military major who had agreed to put her in his house. The fugitive girl hopes that the noble major will help her and her lover Sam escape from their country, immigrate immigrate to a Western country. When her imagination reached this happy end, the truck stopped at the gate of the major's house. The driver jumped down, circled the truck, and then opened the high door for her. Intisar got down slowly and carefully for fear of falling from the high truck. The soldier took her hand and helped her down. An armed guard approached them with a large machine gun in his right hand and a large dog in his left hand. The new maid servant started to shiver when she saw the huge brute. The handsome soldier who had brought her knew why she was so afraid and so told the guard to take his fearsome dog aside. Then Intisar stood behind the driver. The guard held his dog while the driver and the new girl advanced towards the gate. Once inside the gate, Intisar saw a woman standing halfway between the house and the gate. She's a tall, skinny woman with an angry face. She put her hands on her waist and appeared as a lady about to get into a fight. The driver approached the woman and said to her, "Good morning, Mrs. Sanosni." The woman remained silent. "My dear madam, this is your new maid servant. Her name is Intisar Ibrahim." The new maid saw that the woman's ugly face was getting very angry without knowing a specific reason for it. The wife's hostile face revealed to her maid servant that she would not have a pleasant time at the major's house. She has to deal with a huge dog the size of a tiger and a wife as dangerous as a cobra. "Where did you come from?" Mr. Al-Sanosnis asked angrily. "From the city of Al-Gadarif," the new mate answered fearfully. "What kind of work do you want to do here?" "Anything you want me to do, I'll do for you, madam." "Then follow me." Intisar followed the woman alone. The soldier driver got back into his truck and drove away. As she walked behind the tall and ugly wife, the beautiful maid began to admire the beauty of the house. They passed many large rooms. The homeless girl wished in her heart to be allocated one of these spacious rooms for her. They kept walking until they reached the last room. When they entered, Intisar knew that they were in the kitchen. Then the woman stood in the middle of the kitchen and put her hands on her waist. Then the ugly wife of Major Sanosni stood in the middle of the kitchen and put her hands on her waist, facing the beautiful new maid servant. She's about to start her instructions, but suddenly her small eyes notice Intisar's feet. "Where's your shoes?" The woman screams angrily. Before Intisar could answer her, the angry wife answered her own question. "This means that my husband found you wandering the streets and offered you a job. Am I right?" "No, madam, I'm not a street girl. I'm from a good family, but circumstances have forced me to wander aimlessly through the streets of Khartoum city for the past 2 days." "What are the conditions which led you to be walking aimlessly on the streets? Did you run away from your home?" "Yes, madam. Of course, I know why. You have filled your womb with shame. Because of that shame, your father wanted to kill you. Most likely this was the reason that promoted you to run away from home. This is not true, madam. Then tell me what made you run away from your house and wander the streets. It is a long story. I told it to your husband and he believed me. He is he is so even if a bitch comes up to him and tells him I'm a good woman, he will believe her. Before Intisar could respond to the aforementioned false accusation, the enraged woman made another discovery about her new maid. So she came forward and touched her dress and said sarcastically, now tell me, street girl, where did you get that expensive dress? An evil woman gave it to me. She tried to trick me into being a prostitute, but I ran away from her house when someone tried to rape me in my sleep at night. And that woman didn't care about your bare feet? Or did she think it was the new fashion for her to send you out through the streets without shoes to fool foolish men like my stupid husband? Believe me, madam, I'm a good girl. I'm morally well behaved. You'll find out when I stay with you. At any rate, I will discuss it with my husband when he gets home. Now I want to give you orders. First of all, you should know that I'm a very strict woman. I'm a soldier's wife. I hate disobedience and filth. Filth of both kinds, physical and immoral. I will never tolerate seeing you doing anything dirty in this house. You must be clean and tidy if you want to stay here. I will always be neat and tidy, madam. Now, about ethical behavior. First of all, you should know that I have two sons of same age as you. One 18 years old and the other 16 years old. They are morally good boys and they are doing well in their studies. In addition to them, I have my husband. If any immoral talk, look, or a behavior comes from you or theirs, I will strike you and send you out of the house at once. I know you have some beauties on your face and body, which you may try to use to entice the good men of this house. I did not like the beauty of your face and shape of your body the moment I saw you. If any man in this house smiles to you, don't smile at him. If he invites you to his room, do not enter. Keep yourself away from them. I will never tolerate any love affairs between a maid and gentleman in this house. If I happen to go out of the house, you should not be surprised if I lock you with a big padlock inside your room and I carry the key with me. I believe in the saying that advises people to separate the egg from the stone and the female from the male. I will not contest your decisions, madam. We will now move on to the labor laws or your job descriptions. Do you know how to read and write? Yes, madam. I completed my 10th grade in the higher secondary school for girls in Gadar City. I don't care what you have accomplished in your studies, but the most important thing is to follow your rules and regulations very strictly. Yes, I will follow them, madam. Can you take the pen and notebook over there? The new maid Intisar followed Mrs. Sanosni's various instructions, took the notebook and pen, and waited for the dictation. Law number one, I have to be in the kitchen from 6 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. The new maid wrote the unjust very slow and waited for the second. Law number two, I'm not allowed to sit, lie down, or relax on any chair, sofa, or a bed, or watch television, or listen to the radio, or a tape recorder during my 15 working hours. The maid servant wrote the unfair second law and waited for the third. Law number four, I shall make breakfast, cook lunch and dinner, wash the clothes of the whole family, wash the bed sheets, pillowcases, and tablecloths, clean all the utensils, sweep the dust, then sweep rooms and corridors, pour water on flowers, roses, and other plants, and clothes, go to the market, and do any other work that need require. The new maid wrote the said inhuman law and sadly awaited the force. Law number 4. I have no right to mix with any member of Sonosni's family. This means I am not authorized under any circumstances to sit and dine with members of the noble family. Intisar also wrote the Slavery Act number 4 and waited for the next one. Now write your name, not the date, and sign the contract. The new maid wrote her full name, then dated and signed the contract and handed over to Mrs. Alsonosny for her approval. The noble wife read the contract after she wrote the date and added her signature to it. During Tisar's return to her chair, the stern woman made a new discovery about her new maid, which made her scream as if she saw Satan in the form of human female. Take off this dress. I don't want to see you in that short, nasty dress again. This dress is designed for Abyssinian prostitutes and Western movie actresses of the Christian infidels. But, madame, I have no other address. Go to the bathroom and get rid of that dirty dress. I will give you my dress to put on until I have decent clothes for you. Okay, madam, I will remove it in the bathroom. After that, Mrs. Alsanosny grabbed the maid's hand and dragged her into the bathroom. Then she went and fetched a lot of clothes from her wardrobe. The maid tried on all the clothes, but none of them fit her. Each dress is either too small or too long for her. The soldier's wife is a thin woman, like a tuberculosis patient. So Mrs. Sanosny had to let her beautiful maid Intisar spend the fairest day in her holy house in her sexy dress. But she promised again and again that she would buy her a good dress the next morning. Chapter 50. The runaway wife in a house of slavery. When the so-called disobedient Muslim wife arrived at the house of Major al-Sanosni, most of the duties had already been done by the mistress of the house herself. Wherefore, the hard-working wife of the major said that her new maid had nothing to do that day but wash and iron a few clothes and other house linen. However, when the mean woman collected the clothes, the linens, blankets, the bed sheets, the mattress covers, the pillowcases, and the tablecloths, Intisar concluded in her mind that if she had to work continuously without stopping, she would not finish washing half of them in a week. So the new maid servant asked the stern woman to excuse her from washing piles of clothes that day because she was too tired and to give them to a laundry shop instead. To a laundry shop? What did you come here for? To eat, sleep, urinate, and defecate as if you are in a luxury hotel on your honeymoon with your handsome groom? Listen, Miss Welly, if you don't want to wash these few clothes and linens, you should get out of this house immediately. Well, madam, I'll wash and iron them. But can you divide them into 7 piles for me? Then I will work every day on one of them. What did you say? 7 days to wash and iron those few clothes? Listen, street girl, I'm a soldier's wife. I believe in discipline and hard work. I myself work as an unpaid maid servant from morning to evening. I take a rest not for 1 hour. So if you don't want to work hard in this house, find another work in another place. Well, madam, I will watch them. But do you have a washing machine? I haven't even seen what a washing machine looks like. Your hands are the washing machine and iron. But, madam, how can I finish them today? Look at the biles that have piled up and you have collected them for me. I need many days to finish them, not several days. In a few hours, you can finish them all. Personally, I can finish them in a couple of hours. You have a lot of time today. No need to cook food or clean rooms. I did all that before you came to this house. From 6 p.m. now to 12 midnight, you have 6 hours to work. It is long enough for you because your work started today at 6 p.m. I extended it until 12 at midnight. From tomorrow, you'll work from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. You must work 12 hours a day and have 3 hours in between for having your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I will calculate this day for you as a half a day, and pay you accordingly. You better start now and not waste my time and yours arguing the differences. I still have a lot of work to do. When Mrs. Elsanosny imposed the fairest assignment or a duty on her new mate, she left the classroom while walking as if she was as a military soldier on her evening duty. Intisar stood among the piles of clothes and began to contemplate her life. She faced two difficult choices, which is better for her. Either return to the streets and eventually turn into a prostitute and a whore for many men, or to stay in Mrs. Alsanosny's house, which is better for her, either to return to the streets and eventually turn into a prostitute and a whore for many men, or stay in Mrs. Alsanosny's house and become a slave girl. So she is again in a serious dilemma. It is more difficult than the one she faced early in the morning that day, when she was forced to choose death between the bullets of the soldiers or the stones of the mob. She understood that death would be much better than slavery and prostitutions. Thus, Intisar found herself contemplating suicide for the first time in her miserable life. Once again, she remembered the prophetic words of the Imam of the Grand Mosque, which is better for you, to be the wife of one man or the woman of many men. How was his prophecy immediately fulfilled on her life? A prophecy that must have been inspired by Satan, the devil. As soon as the Imam entered his new Mercedes car and left her standing in front of the largest house of God in Sudan, Satan sent that beam lady, Mother Nafisa, who took her to a brothel and tried to turn her into a prostitute available for prostitution to many men. She wanted to make her a high ranking whore for selling sex to many rich old men. When Intisar's mind was preoccupied with these dark thoughts, she suddenly heard Mrs. Alsanosny scream in her ears, "Start your job right away, lazy and dirty girl. If you don't start now, I'm going to come into the bathroom and make you regret that you came to work here." The new maid became very afraid of the angry woman, so she started washing clothes. Intisar continued washing piles of clothes continuously for 3 hours. At exactly 9 o'clock, Mrs. Alsanosny burst into the bathroom and ordered her to go to the kitchen and prepare dinner for the members of the noble family. The new maid felt great relief from the constant torture of washing dirty clothes non-stop. She immediately got up and headed towards the kitchen. When she reached the big kitchen, she found the angry woman had placed a large tray with many dishes. At every step of preparing dinner, The stern woman shouted at her new maid. She wasted 20 minutes scolding the inexperienced maid, correcting her and pushing her aside every time because of her many mistakes. The serious woman then told her new maid to wait 5 minutes and then bring the tray to the dining hall. The noble wife thought it was below her level and dignity that her husband and two sons saw her walking with the lowly maid, whom she considered dirtier than her own filth and excrement. Intisar waited for 5 minutes to pass before daring to show her face to the noble sons. Because of 3 hours of hard work, the maid's back was bent. She tried to straighten her body by herself, but she couldn't. Then she picked up the heavy tray and walked towards the dining hall. The heavy weight of the tray caused her to bend even more. This position made her appear sexually attractive to any male who might see her. If she approached him with her face, he could clearly see half of her big breast through the collar of her pretty dress. If she gets closer to him with her back, he can see her wet dress clinking to her big and sexy buttocks. Such a dangerous temptation had escaped the attention of the stern wife, who said she hated the immoral relationship between a beautiful and sexy maid and the noble males of her holy abode. The dress was intentionally designed by the Lady Bim Omnificus tailor to be used by a beautiful young woman of her 5 adopted daughters to lure rich old men into fornication with them. And then they must pay the beam lady whatever amount of money she will charge her wealthy clients. Meanwhile, in the dining hall, they sit around a large table with the major, his soldier like wife, and their two teenage boys. The two sons sit on one side opposite the entrance, and the husband and wife sit across from them. How's your new maid? Major Sonosny asked happily and enthusiastically. Mesenosi replied angrily, I'm not happy with her presence in the house. What is wrong with her? She is young and strong. Besides, she needs shelter and work. I'm not worried about her age and strength. I don't like her face. What do you say? What did you say, ma'am? The 16-year-old son asked his mother. The 13-year-old son said, once again you brought an ugly face into the house, a female face that looks like an ape again. I can't believe that ugly girl left our house. Yet, mother, I have a terrible nightmare whenever I remember the face of our last maid, said the 16-year-old son. As if you brought them from the zoo. The first maid servant was like a chimpanzee. The second girl was like a dog's mouse. And the third woman was big. And this new maid would look uglier than a gorilla or an African elephant. Why don't you bring a girl with a normal human face? Said the younger son. Why should our Sudanese mates be brought from the Nuba Mountains, Darfur region, and South Sudan? Is it possible to bring an Arab girl from Eastern or Northern Sudan or from Al Jazeera province? Said the elder son. Hassan and Hussein, I'm your mother and I know what is best for you. Those previous girls were my choice, but this new maid is your father's choice and I don't like her face because it doesn't qualify her to be a maid servant. Before the two sons could ask their mother for explanation, they hear a soft and gentle female voice saying, May I come in? Hassan and Hussein look at each other and then look at the doorway. Their father said eagerly, Can you come in, dear Intisar, and you can join us for dinner? Why did she have to make such an annoying sound before entering? Mr. Nosny asked angrily. The two teenage boys' faces saw the large tray of food, and a face of disbelief followed them when they saw it. With each step the new maid took toward them, their erections increased by degrees. Their eyes are fixed on her beautiful face and her half-visible breast. Their father is the first to stand up. He rushed after the new maid, pulled out a chair, and offered her a seat. The father saw her big buttocks first and was thus influenced by the erotic stream first. The two sons also reached out and took the large tray from the beautiful maid. Then they asked her to sit down and join them at the dinner table. That is not all. The younger son took a plate and served food to their beautiful and sexy maid. The ugly mother could not stand it anymore and thus became very angry. Stand up, you stupid girl, the angry woman shouted. You are here to serve us, not for my husband and sons to serve you. Didn't I tell you that your place is in the kitchen? How dare you sit here with your noble masters and also want to dine with us? The maid inside jumped out of the chair as if she had discovered a poisonous cobra moving under her seat. Then she ran to the kitchen as if she was being chased by a Muslim female terrorist carrying explosive devices strapped around her waist. Didn't I tell you, Al-Sanosni, that this girl is not fit to be made in this house? You have seen with your own eyes the effect of her face on your sons. If you want to destroy and spoil your teenage boys' good manners, let her stay here. My dear wife Fatima, I tell you this girl is homeless and without money. I can't send her to the streets. Why don't you give her a chance? In that case, you must send these two boys to boarding school before she corrupt them morally and make them commit adultery with her. Mom, how can she spoil us when we look at her as a mere housemaid? The younger son asked. The older son says, she seemed to be a good and well-mannered girl. Yes, my brother is right, Hussein says. She looks like an angel, Hassan says. Have you ever seen an angel? The mother asked her older son angrily. No, Mama, not at all. But I think today I saw an angelic face. Look, they start calling her Angel today, and tomorrow they will call her Miss Worley. They just annoy you. I know they are both morally good boys, and they know what their limits are. My beloved mother, we will treat her like a sister. The father says happily, you are a good mannered boy, my son. Sanosni, I will put all the blame on you if anything goes wrong. I'm sure nothing bad will happen to our two sons. My husband is Sanosni, the wife says loud. I believe in the Sudanese saying you should separate the egg from the stone and the female from the male. Yes, my wife Fatima, I know that the new maid inside is very beautiful, a younger teenager, and also very sweet. But what is wrong with being a pretty girl? Being a beautiful woman is not a crime. Beauty is a virtue and a blessing from God, which He gives to the woman He loves. Mrs. Mr. Sonosni's last words causes his ugly and skinny wife to rise from the table without eating her supper. Then she exited in a rage out of the dining room and went to the kitchen. There she found the new maid, Intisar, sitting crying. What are you doing here, lazy girl? You are a disobedient maid servant. You should be in the bathroom doing your work by now. The pretty maid quickly developed a great fear of the major's ugly wife. When she sees her angry face or hear her coarse voice, she feels like a cobra is approaching her. Therefore, Intisar immediately got up and fled to the bathroom as if she was being chased by the devil's wife with a pitchfork in her hand. She started washing again. An hour later, the cobra woman came to her terrified maid and ordered her to go and clean the dishes in the kitchen. While she was cleaning the dishes, the maid received the sad news that she would not have dinner as a punishment for breaking an important law. Intisar appealed to the cobra woman with tears. She said she was starving because she had not eaten any food that day. However, the cobra woman said that orders must be obeyed without question. The alleged disobedient maid the alleged disobedient maid spent an hour in the bathroom, and then the rude woman, acting like a conscript, conscript soldier, told her that her duty for the day was over. It was 12:30 in the middle of the night when the new slave girl in Intisar left the bathroom. When she got to her feet, she couldn't stand up straight. Her back was completely bent. Her feet have become crooked too. Her heart, her head hurts her. Her stomach is empty. She feels nauseous. She can't stand without propping herself up against a wall. Nevertheless, the cruel wife grabbed her hand and pulled her out. Then she dragged her like an animal into the pantry and told her that it would be her bedroom. Then she went out and closed the door behind her. Her new slave Intisar is left alone to face another horrible night with rats, cockroaches, mosquitoes, and other bloodsuckers of the night insects. The imprisoned maid can hear the cruel wife of the major walking away like a soldier on her night shift. Then the new maid servant who had been transformed into a despicable slave girl began to tremble from the fear of being alone in her place, which was familiar to her dark dungeon, as if she was an outcast woman in a Hindu society. She is very tired and hungry now. She looked around to see her new abode. The storeroom is intended for storing old things such as broken furniture, children's toys, when the two brothers Hassan and Hussein used to play with them when they were young, and the major's military equipment. It is very small. It has a horrible stink. Besides, it has very dim light. The frightened maid does not feel alone in this little grave. Rats and mosquitoes make enough noise to keep her up all night long. Intisar does not care that there are millions of mosquitoes. Her city, Al Gadarif, is known for its billions of blood sucking insects, especially mosquitoes. But her fear was caused by the presence of mice. She believed that rats can eat human flesh when they are hungry. So the terrified maid spent the first hours sitting and watching all in all directions. However, due to her fatigue, she felt very sleepy. She struggled with her sleep and her fatigue for a while. But at last, fatigue and sleepiness overcame her, and she fell asleep on the floor. She has no bed, mattress, pillow, or blanket. She is sleeping now like a tree trunk without dreaming or moving. At 3 o'clock that morning, the door to sleeping made Intisar's little storeroom was open from the outside. A tall, dark silhouette of a man crept into her darkened room, hid like a thief in the night. Then he closed the door, the small door again. In the dim light, the dark human figure moved like a black ghost and stood in front of the sexy body of the beautiful new maid. Then he turned off the light. A small room turned into a pitch darkness like a tomb. Intisar, like an innocent lamb, She sleeps without knowing that there is another humanoid piece very close to her. The thief reached out his hands and started to feel her sexy body. She is sleeping on her stomach. Her tight, short, sexy dress is still wet and stick to her big buttocks. The man sensed her seductive body and continued to enjoy it for a while. Then he moved his right hand from her buttocks and extended his hand on one of her breasts. His left hand is still moving on the big wet ass of from one buttock to another one to the other one. His right hand moved to her soft lips and began to feel them lustfully. Then he moved his lips and started kissing her cheeks. In the meantime, his hand moved from one sensitive and sexy area to the other. Intisar is in deep sleep and does not feel the crushes and pressures of her body. She is dead tired and her body is dormant. The lustful man is in hurry. Therefore he folded the maid's dress until it reached her stomach. He quickly pulled her red swimsuit-like underwear from her hairy pussy and big buttocks until it reached her knees. Then he took off his clothes and mounted her body. As he began forcing his light erect dig inside her virgin pussy, the sad innocent girl's sleeping body awoke. At first, the new maid saw that an evil spirit was attacking her in her sleep through a terrible nightmare. She saw that she was still in the house of the Bim lady Mother Nafisa and that she was being brutally raped by the fat man who was trying to rape her again. Then she soon remembered that she had run away from the brothel and was now working as a maid servant in the good major's house. When she felt his big cock insert a small part of it into her circumcised pussy, she woke up and screamed in terror. He quickly put his hand over her mouth and muffled her scream. Now she is fully awake. Intisar understands that he is a human male, not a ghost. The man tries to rape her, discredit her pure body, and take away her virginity. She struggles under his strong and heavy body. Her male physical strength is far inferior to his male physical strength. She tried to scream for help again, but her voice could not come out through her tongue, teeth, and lips because his strong, big hand was covering her small mouth. Intisar knew her struggle to stay afloat was over, so she surrendered and handed over her body to the man to rape and defile it and steal her virginity. She began to cry for her purity and honor. She felt that the rapist was forcefully forcing his big dick inside her virgin cunt like a saw or a sharp knife cutting her in half. In those decisive moments in the life of the sad innocent girl Intisar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, the door opened violently from outside, and the cobra woman jumped inside and roared like an angry lioness who found her lion fucking another lioness. Snosni, shame on you. I know you only brought her up for this shameful adultery with her. If you do not stop your dirty and abominable deed, I will scream and wake your sons, Hassan and Hussein, and ask them with the armed guards to come and see you in this shameful sight. The adulterous major slowly and timidly rolled off the maid's naked body and stood up. With his head bowed down, he crept out of the dark little storeroom. Intisar felt as if she was raped by a wild beast. She became like a broken female animal. She also felt like a doggy bitch raped by a wild dog on the hard floor on the urban road. She moved slowly with her brutal red body and got to her feet and waited for the angry cobra woman to attack and kill her. Then shifted her she lifted her red underwear from her knees up and covered her red hairy pussy and pushed down her wrapped dress and looked with frightened eyes at the dangerous wife. Her eyes are filled with tears and fear. Then the new maid began to cry and beg for mercy from the cruel wife. Do you have the guts to cry and beg for forgiveness, you filthy bitch? Get out of this house, you whore and street slut, before I call the guards with their two dangerous dogs. You must leave my house immediately. I don't want to see your dirty face in this home again. You are the wife of Satan, who has come here to destroy my married life and spoil the good name of my husband, the broad Major Sanosny. My good-natured husband had never before committed such disgraceful act of adultery with any other maidservant. You seduced him alone with your seductive dress and half-naked body and made him commit adultery with you. You did that because you wanted him to leave me and divorce me as his good and pure wife, then marry you. You are a dirty and unclean street bitch. Before Intisar could defend herself and tell the angry wife that it was not her fault and that it was also not her prior overstabbing or a intention to seduce her husband to commit adultery with her and marry her as a second Muslim wife or a rival to her, the cobra wife assaulted her and grabbed her by the hair. Then she began to pull violently at her long hair as if she wanted to break the maid's neck. Intisar screamed even louder when the cruel woman forced her out of the door by literally pulling her hair. In this inhuman and cruel manner, the major's wife dragged her new maid or her slave girl out of the little storeroom. When they reached the outer gate, the outraged wife let go of her long hair. Then she spit in her face and kicked her with her shoe on her back until the maid fell upside down and injured herself. That then the cobra woman cried angrily, "Guards, if this dirty bitch comes back here again, feel free to shoot her in the head with your guns or let your ferocious dogs attack her and eat her alive."